The President of the United States. You are listening to George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows. George is a Scotsman, and like me, an Irishman. Enjoy.
Well, speaking as a Scotsman, there's the mother of all political rows broken out in Britain, where the Independence Party, the Scottish National Party, have been trumped in a way by David Cameron, the British Prime Minister, deciding that it's time for a referendum in Scotland on whether or not Scotland should separate from the rest of the United Kingdom. It's set the cat amongst the pigeons. We may, if we've got time, squeeze in a little discussion on that. Let me lay my cards on the table. I think breaking up a small island of English-speaking people into two states is a very stupid idea. In general, I'm against breaking up states, especially where everyone speaks the same language. But hey, that's just me. I'm more interested this morning in the results from New Hampshire. It looks like Mitt, doesn't it? He's got the big Mo. Mo's Mitt, or Mitt's Mo. You tell me what you think. And what about Ron Paul coming in second? Is that significant or not? And what about what we've just been hearing on Democracy Now? That though Ron Paul may have an anti-war message, and I, for one, as somebody who doesn't live in the United States, could do with a bit more isolationism from your country, if he wants to eviscerate the social safety net, and he's got decidedly dodgy pedigree on issues of race, well, would we be buying a pig in a poke with Ron Paul? You tell me. 212-209-2900. That's the number to call me to join the great debate. Your calls will be handled, as always, by Aoife, without whom there wouldn't be a show. And so, as always, I'm grateful to her. Then there's the issue of blowing up other people's scientists, which happened again this morning in Tehran, where yet another Iranian scientist was blown up by a bomb, a magnetic bomb, attached to his car as he was driving along to work by a man on a motorcycle. The Iranians say that Israel and the United States are behind it. I say he's almost certainly right on that one. Tell me what you think. Is that terrorism? Surely. Is that the alternative to a war, to an invasion, to an attack upon Iran? To blow up anyone with a university degree in anything that might be remotely helpful in developing the science base and the nuclear energy base in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Does America know what it's doing in relation to Iran, is a question that I would ask you. 212-209-2900. Just a taste of some of the things that we'll be talking about over the next hour or so on the mother of all talk shows. Aoife, do we have a call on the line?
Yes, you do. You have Harry from the East Village up.
Harry in the East Village, welcome to the show, my friend.
Good morning, George. How are you?
Yes, I'm well. I'm full of the joys of not quite spring, but a not very cold winter. So go ahead.
I'd like to comment on what you said about this fellow that was murdered in Iran.
Yes, the Iranian scientist, yes.
Yes. I agree with you. I believe it's a conspiracy between the CIA and Israel. I believe it's an act of terrorism. I believe it's an act of murder. I believe it's an intrusion into a sovereign nation. And
it's an act of war, really, Harry, isn't it?
It is. No,
I mean, when you add it all up, sanctions, an embargo, murdering other people's scientists.
Exactly.
It's basically the kind of war the U.S. has maintained against Cuba over 50 years.
Exactly. And I don't know if these fellows up in Washington and in Israel, I don't know if they realize that every time this country, United States, ventures into other countries and people die, we're making more enemies. The Middle East is such a fertile ground for these people who've been oppressed by the Western powers for 100 years. And they are.
Well, you better believe it, Harry, that the Iranians are coming to the end of their tether over all of this.
Yeah.
And they made it clear that they'll block the Straits of Hormuz.
I agree with them.
Through which 20% of the world's oil flows,
right.
30% of the world's ocean-borne oil. And if we think we've got economic problems at the moment, that would be the mother of all economic catastrophes, quite apart from the military cost.
Yeah, well, of course. And don't forget that the United States saw what they were up against when Iran had these naval exercises. So what does the United States do? They rescue some people that were trapped by, I think they were Somalis on their little boat, and they rescued them, and that's like a gesture of goodwill. So now Iran is supposed to back down. I don't agree with that. The United States has been meddling in Iran since the days of the Shah. Since the 50s.
Yeah, well, there would never have been a Shah, as you and I both know. Maybe not everyone listening.
Of course.
The Shah was gone in 1953. A democratic government was elected in Iran under Dr. Mossadegh. It was overthrown in Operation Mongoose by the CIA and the British intelligence services.
Of course, and then we wonder why, when the Shah came to the United States because he was sick, we wonder why they took American hostages. They don't want the Shah back and have the United States controlling these people. It's a sovereign nation. How dare this country do that? I am so displeased with my country. And I was in the service. I was in the Army. I went overseas. But I am so displeased with what's going on and the lies that we're being given. I mean, look at Guantanamo. I mean, these people are in there incommunicado for 10 years.
10 years on, huh?
Yeah, and now that
10 years on, and 4 years since President Obama was elected on a pledge to close it.
And he didn't do what he promised, that it would be closed in a year. And now we have the National Defense Authorization Act. We have the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act to grab people off the street. The NDAA, we could grab people from anywhere in the world and throw them either in Guantanamo or to the new prisons that they have in Somalia. I mean,
well, look, Harry, you and I live in two of the three most hated countries in the world. The third, of course, being Israel. It's not a comfortable place to be.
No, it isn't.
Especially not for the younger generation, just starting out.
Of course.
I mean, the day will come where all Americans will have to pretend they're Canadians. All the British will have to pretend they're Irish.
Exactly.
And the Israelis will probably have stolen somebody's passport anyway.
But, I'm so disillusioned. Thank you for letting me...
Not at all. It's always a pleasure to talk to you in the East Village. Thanks for that, Harry. Aoife, do we have a second call?
Yes, you do. You have Freddie from Valley Stream.
Freddie, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, Mr. Galloway. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, by the grace of God. What can I do for you?
Yeah, the previous caller, you mentioned Cuba. The offer still stands. Go down here, take your commie trips with you, you styling commie.
I just knew that Freddie was the toilet wall painter. I just knew it. I knew it from his voice from the first couple of syllables. Well, it's a pleasure to be insulted by you, Freddie, or whatever your name is. Eve, give me a third one.
Sorry about that one. I didn't catch it. This one is Paris from Larchmont, New York.
Hi.
Very nice to talk to you. Is it Faris?
Paris. P-A-R-V-I-Z. Paris.
We spoke before.
Yes,
great to hear you again. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. I agree with the first caller about U.S. policies. And let me tell you what they did to me. I came here in 1963 as a student from Iran. Went to University of Nebraska on a PhD program. And what they did, anytime my wife got pregnant, my country, USA, England, Israel, and Japan, together did experiments on the fetuses of my children in the womb of my wife. They injected radioactive material into the bloodstream of my wife, can you believe it? And did genetic studies on my babies. They killed some of my babies. The children who are born are sick.
And I think that's too. I'm sorry, Paris.
I apologize for that.
No, Paris. I think that's all too deeply personal a set of issues for me to deal with. So I'm going to have to bid you good morning. Aoife, give me a fourth call, will you, please?
Yes, you have Robert from the Bronx.
Robert in the Bronx. Very nice to hear from you, Robert. How's the Bronx today?
Oh, it's okay.
Good.
Mr. Galloway, I think you mentioned it last week, and I think about 4 weeks ago, Obama was on 60 Minutes, and he also mentioned it, that he's relying on the Bill Clinton strategy, which is that if the progressives and the so-called liberals and the Democrats have no other choice but to vote for him because of he said it on 60 Minutes. He says, don't go by me against the polls, go by me against my opponent. And I think he's thinking the same way Bill Clinton thought. There's a sense that he knows that Democrats have no choice, progressive people have no choice, liberals have no choice, so it's either him or
some total reactionary backwoodsman. Yeah.
That's it, and I think that's their strategy. Especially, I think that's that's a Democratic strategy. They're always
it's been, as you say, Clinton theorized it, but it has been in practice the Democrat strategy right from the beginning, hasn't it?
Right.
They know that it's a duopoly, that there's the Millionaires' Party, the Republicans, and there's the party that has historically been able to rally a wider coalition, including blue collar, including working people, middle class people, and so on. What Clinton theorized was this triangulation strategy: find out what the opposition wants, and move towards it on the principle that the others will have to follow you. Now that will work as long as there's no third party. That will work as long as there's no alternative pole of attraction. But of course, there's absolutely nothing in it for the left. There's nothing in it for the poor. There's nothing in it for the working people, the people who create the things that we need. So it's going to be time after the election to return to this question and to see if we can build an alternative. It might be possible. What do you think?
Well, I think it's like this. I think Bill Clinton, NAFTA and GATT was passed under Democratic president and Democratic Congress. So these are so-called free trade pacts that were passed by them, and that hurt the business. That hurt the the union. That hurt the unions were against it. All the big unions were against NAFTA and against the free trade pact, and yet Bill Clinton and the Democrats pushed it.
They pushed it through anyway, they think that organized labor has nowhere else to go. And they're right about that. They're right about that for the moment.
That's right.
Okay, Robert, thanks for the call. This is George Galloway. This is the mother of all talk shows.
Here he is, comrades. George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows. Guaranteed to destroy any weapons of mass deception.
Well, that's me. Who are you? 212-209-2900. Introduce yourself to me. If you've not called the show before, please do. We want to have all kinds of voices here on the mother of all talk shows on WBAI, serving New York and the tri-state area. Aoife, do we have a fifth call?
Yes, you do. You have Paul from Staten Island.
Paul in Staten Island, one of my favorite places. Go ahead, dear.
Yeah. At what point do you call a nation and a society fascist? When you look at the media we have, it's absolutely unbelievable how you get no
It's unbelievably bad, but it's not fascist, Paul. I mean, if you'd ever lived under fascism, you'd know the difference. Believe me, this show wouldn't be on the air if there was fascism, and you wouldn't be able to call me and say what you just said if there was fascism.
Well, that's the other point I was going to make. I mean, it's like BAI and the Internet is the only two left. If they take those out,
that's
what do
pretty
you have?
big. I mean, I'm proud of WBAI, but the second of those, the Internet, is a pretty big space. That means we don't have fascism, or we wouldn't have that space. And it is the space in which more and more people learn more and more of what they know about what's going on in the world. And the media moguls, the Rupert Murdochs and so on, just can't control it. And on Facebook and Twitter, I'm talking sometimes several times a day to 150,000 plus people. And 150,000 is like the circulation of your own newspaper. And it's free to me. On YouTube, I've got more than 12,000 videos of my speeches and interviews, not one of which I put up myself. So we do have a lot of space, Paul. We can't really blame the media moguls if we're not getting our message across, don't you think?
Yes. Well, that's also another point I was going to make, too, is like, sometimes we blame the politicians, but should we look at the people? Who would even vote for a guy like Romney? I mean, what percentage would even vote? Why would he even be even voted for in the primary, let alone how could he be dominated?
Exactly. He's like a tailor's dummy. I don't know if you call them that there, but you know, in the windows of the department stores, the guy that's modeling the suit, except he's made of plastic. I mean, I've never seen anything so pitiful as the current lineup of candidates in the Republican race. I mean, I keep calling them the seven dwarves. That's probably not politically correct and not perhaps even physiologically accurate. It's seven tailor's dummies, isn't it?
Yes. And
it's really astounding that a country like America, the richest, most innovative, most powerful country in the world, and one of its only two parties cannot produce better than this.
It is a reflection, I'm sad to say, on the people and the society. It's kind of gotten, it's declined in many ways. It's not just to blame them, but we have to look at ourselves and change ourselves.
We do. Well, certainly progressive people like me and perhaps yourself, we have to ask ourselves, how did we get to this? How do we get to the situation where capitalism is totally failing, but nobody's looking or interested in looking at an alternative form of society?
Yes.
That's the big dilemma. Paul, thanks for the call, mate. Ife, do we have a sixth?
Yes, you have Nick from Brooklyn.
Nick in Brooklyn, welcome back. Go ahead, sir.
Yep, good morning. I just want to ride on the coattails of the second caller. He brought up a couple of interesting points, a few of which I wanted to address with you. I realize that Obama, in the eyes of many, is the darling child that can do no wrong. But let's look at this man's track record for a minute, okay? Let's look at the fact that, and again, I go back to this. Let's look at the fact that under his administration, he's given away more money to the banks than any other president. Okay, $700 billion he gave away, which could have been given to the American people, but he didn't do that. He gave it away to his buddies. And then let's also look at the fact that under his administration, okay, the NDAA Act has been signed. Oh, of course, it's not going to be used against the American people. Well, what the heck did he sign it for? You see, the bottom line here is that there is no other choice for this country except Ron Paul. His ideas, and as far as him, leaving the poor and the old people out in the cold, that's not going to happen. His track record doesn't speak that. His track record speaks that he cares about the people. So he will obviously bring and implement a system that will work for the American people. But let's talk about something. He wants to bring his troops. He will cut $1 trillion, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, $1 trillion from his campaign, from his, if he gets into the White House, he will cut $1 trillion. You better believe that he will do that. What do you think? So, I mean, the Social Security is broke as it is now.
Let's analyze him. But first, I'd need to say, Nick, you said that in the eyes of many people, Obama is a darling child who can do no wrong. I don't think there are many such people left anywhere in America. I really don't think that that's accurate. It may have been accurate 4 years ago. It definitely isn't accurate now. So
you keep promoting him that way. But
let's leave Obama to one side and talk about your darling child, Ron Paul, although he is 76 years old, which would make Ronald Reagan look like a stripling if he were to enter the White House. Answer me this. When Ron Paul sent out letters describing Martin Luther King Day as Hate Whitey Day, what do you think he meant by that?
Well, let me ask you this. I'll answer that question. I will answer that question. But let me ask you this. Which is worse? Which is worse? All we can grab is something that he did 20 years ago, which he himself states
was not.
I'm answering it.
I've got more. No, Nick, I've got more. I just want you to answer that. What did he mean by that?
What did he mean? What did he mean by what?
What did he say when he said that Martin Luther King Day was Hate Whitey day.
I love this. We're not going to address the actual issues. We're going to address something minor.
We are, Nick. But we've got to get past first base.
No, we don't.
There's a lot of black people listening to this show.
You have to understand something. The issue here is that we have boys and girls overseas that are dying in wars.
Don't dodge this.
That is the issue. That is the issue.
Don't dodge this. We're coming on to other points, but let's get to first base first. What did your darling child mean when he described MLK Day as Hate Whitey Day? What did he mean?
He explicitly said, under no uncertain terms, it was a robo-signing. Which is worse, Mr. Galloway, a letter that he says that was robo-signed...
All right, Nick. We've established that your darling child allowed a robo-signing of a letter from him referring to MLK as Hate Whitey Day, and we've secondly established that you, as his advocate on this show, are not prepared even to try and explain what that could conceivably have meant other than a base, racist appeal to the right wing in America, the base of right-wing racists in America.
That's
you're not even prepared to deal with it. So let's deal with the second point that you're keen to get onto. Let's deal with the points that you're keen to get onto. Ron Paul wants to... Listen to me. Listen, Nick, I'm asking you a question. I'll let you come back and answer it.
Because we can't even prove that this man is a racist.
Nick, if you don't shut up, I'll have to move on to the next caller, because I want to speak, and then you can respond, okay?
All of our lives. Black, white, yellow, brown, I don't care.
I'll tell you
all
what,
of our lives.
Ife, I think we've had enough of Ron Paul's supporter, and many of the listeners will have found that illuminating, I think. Ife, who have we got on 7th?
You have Tom from the Bronx.
Yeah.
Tom in the Bronx.
Yeah,
welcome.
Mr. Galloway, how are you? I spoke to you a few weeks ago about
Indeed.
him.
Great to hear from you again.
Yeah. I'd like to say that the returning vets coming home from Iraq, they wanted to give them, some people wanted to give them a parade through the canyon, like through the Wall Street area. And Washington, D.C. says, no. And I believe what happens is that they're afraid, Washington, D.C., and the corporate interests of Wall Street may be afraid that the returning vets will join the Wall Street protesters.
Yeah, as some of them have, of course,
well,
and have been brutalized.
They'll do it in mass. If they have a parade for them, they may get off the parade trucks.
Well, that would be terrific.
And then they'll go into the park.
That would be a movie to watch.
They may go into the park there, Zuccotti Park.
Well, I mean, anyone who ever watched Tom Cruise and the Born on the 4th of July, the United States war machine is only interested in soldiers and military as long as they're fit and capable of killing. If they are hurt, wounded, maimed, mentally or otherwise impaired, the United States war machine needs or wants nothing more to do with them.
That's true.
When they leave the military, they'll queue up with the unemployed, probably further back down the queue than most others.
Well,
if you talk to the people on the street, and this is true in my country as well as yours, the people who are living on the street, living rough, the military, ex-military people are disproportionately represented to a massive extent amongst the homeless people in both of our countries. If you go into the prison system in both our countries, you'll find former military people, again, grotesquely, disproportionately represented in the prison population. Our soldiers are mugs. They're made into fools by the politicians who send them into harm's way, who preside over thousands of them being killed and wounded, and then, when they've no more use for them, they simply turn their back. So if I was invited onto a military parade, if I was in the military, I'd leave the parade and go into the park with the Occupy movement, just as you suggest. How about that, Tom?
Well, I believe that, they're afraid that these people will do that. That's why they don't want to give them a parade.
Yeah.
And then
I think you're right.
They're coming up with other excuses.
I think you're right. But there's another reason for not giving them a parade. It's that there's nothing to celebrate, and everybody knows it. The Taliban have just opened a political office in Qatar, which is a satrapy of the United States of America, which is the host to the largest U.S. military base in the entire world, which cannot do a thing without the United States agreeing to it. Taliban has just opened a political office in Qatar.
Well,
the reason for that is so that the United States can indirectly negotiate with the Taliban over the withdrawal of the U.S. from the war in Afghanistan, which was supposed to be about finishing the political leadership of the Taliban. So we're about to negotiate with them. Therefore, what did all these thousands of people die for? What was the point? What was the point of all that blood?
It was sickness.
It is. Tom in the Bronx, thanks for the call. Ife, give me an 8.
You have John from Connecticut.
John in Connecticut. Very welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Thank you. I want to get your excellent historical brain around a couple of things with regard to the assassination of the Iranian scientist today.
Yes.
I'd like to take us back to 1982 in Beirut when the United States Marine Corps located in the most secure building, which was near the airport facility, a large concrete and rebar building that was chosen by the commandant as the most secure place to house his troops. And the subsequent bombing of those barracks by the Hezbollah, and that the Hezbollah, in fact, were plotting that from some time before. And in the excellent book by a man called Viktor Ostrovsky, who was a Mossad agent for some 4 years, who wrote the book by way of deception with the Canadian author Claire Hoy, and the attempt by the Israeli government to ban the book in Canada, to injunct the publication of that book because it was so sensitive, and Mr. Ostrowski's claim that the Israelis knew exactly what the color of the flatbed Mercedes truck was, and they knew that there was this imminent action planned, and Mr. Ostrowski's take was, and he apparently was in the room at the time that this was mentioned, that if the Americans were so good, they could find this information out by themselves. So our great ally, the Israelis, in fact, let happen an incident so that we would become more involved in that area. And Mr. Ostrowski goes on, and other authors also, into the retaliation on Sheikh Fadlallah, which was in 1984, the attempted bombing with a car bomb that was, I think, built by the SAS. I think you probably know more about this, but the United States and the SAS, the British SAS, cooperated to build a car bomb, and Sheikh Fadlallah stayed at his mosque another 20 minutes, and the bomb went off anyhow and killed some 300 people and eviscerated a part of Beirut. The other book that is absolutely mandatory reading for all who are interested in Israeli covert actions and things like the assassination of this scientist is a book called Prophets of War by Ari Ben Menashe, who was an external relations department operative for the Israeli government, who was in fact jailed, and whose book again was trashed by the Israeli government, and the proof positive of his employment was actually printed in the book, all the letters, all the commendations he received. He goes into the work of Jonathan Pollard. He goes into the LACHEM, the special technical science intelligence operation by the Israelis to acquire American know-how and to go all over the world to acquire materials, etc. And I just wonder what your comments are on this and if you could elaborate.
Well, first let me give a health warning. Neither Mr. Ostrovsky nor Ben Menashe are reliable witnesses. Both of them are, to some extent, especially Ben Menashe, fantasists, which doesn't mean that they're not telling the truth on these particular stories, and certainly doesn't mean that these stories are not true, or similar stories are not true. I just want to make the point that I do have quite a bit of experience with both both of these individuals, and neither of them is anyone that you'd want to bet your house on. And you definitely wouldn't want them to come home to marry your daughter. But that doesn't mean that Israel is not and has not been involved in all sorts of deep skullduggery, even against its own friends. And I alluded a minute or two ago to one of them. The murder of the Palestinian official in a hotel room in Dubai a year or so ago was carried out by a Mossad murder squad, Murder Incorporated, all of whom were carrying passports from friendly countries, countries that are never done telling us how friendly they are with Israel. But that doesn't mean Israel's friendly with them, and certainly not too friendly to steal the passports of their nationals and use them in a conspiracy to commit murder in a foreign country. The Pollard case, Jonathan Pollard case, is another case in point. This was a case of an Israeli agent spying on the United States of America in the interests of Israel, even though the United States of America keeps Israel alive and afloat and armed to the teeth, including with nuclear weapons. There's the attack on the USS Liberty, which everyone now realizes was an attack and the cold-blooded killing of dozens of American service personnel by the armed forces of its ally, Israel. And yet none of this seems to spoil the essentially symbiotic relationship between your country and Israel and my country and Israel, even though we know that the presidents of these so-called friendly countries can hardly bear to look in Netanyahu's face because he's such a liar. I'm quoting, of course, President Sarkozy of France. And in the case of Obama, in his reply, you can't look at his face. I have to deal with this guy every day. So we have a situation where this tail wags the American dog, even though America gives $7 billion a year in public and private finance to that state of Israel. It's the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway on WBAI.
People of America, this is the President of the United States. You are listening to George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows. George is a Scotsman, unlike me, an Irishman. Enjoy.
An Irishman indeed. Let's hope, for the sake of America, that he's not a dead duck, because if we get President Mitt, trust me, it ain't going to get better, no matter how bad it is under President Obama. That's my point of view. Anyway, give me yours, 212-209-2900. Aoife, do we have a ninth?
Yes, you do. You have Hector from Connecticut.
Hector, nice to hear from you again. Go ahead.
Oh, wow, you remember me.
I do. There's not many Hectors call me.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I really do admire your stance on Palestine. But what I find perplexing is that you do not support Puerto Rico's independence. You see, Puerto Rico was acquired by the United States, quote unquote, because the United States forced Spain to sign the Treaty of Paris, by which the United States went into Puerto Rico. Now, Spain and the United States did not consult the Puerto Rican people. And in 1897, Spain granted Puerto Rico the Charter of Autonomy, which gave Puerto Rico a juridical personality of its own. Spain had no right to grant Puerto Rico to nobody, and the United States had no right to invade Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico is a nation with a history of the fight for independence. We have national heroes and heroines. Up to recently, in 1950, there was an uprising against United States rule in Puerto Rico. And another thing, America is not within the borders of the United States because we Latin Americans are Americans too. All right, go ahead.
Well, should we give California back to Mexico?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll tell you why not. Because the people in California don't want it. And that's the same answer I'll give you on Puerto Rico. I'm not against independence for Puerto Rico. I'm in favor of whatever the people in Puerto Rico want. And the vast majority of people in Puerto Rico don't want independence from the United States, do they?
They have been brainwashed and denationalized.
So they've been brainwashed. They've been brainwashed. So we should substitute.
That's what colonialism is all about. That's what they want to do to the Middle Eastern countries. Colonize them to the point where they will not want to break away from United States colonialism. And they were successful in Puerto Rico.
Stop speaking for a minute, please.
Colonialism.
Stop speaking for a minute. You cannot substitute yourself for another people. Neither can I, even less so can I. I cannot say that the great majority of Puerto Ricans want to stay in the United States, therefore they've been brainwashed, therefore my view must have precedence over theirs. That's called substitutionism. Neither can I say that the people of California should be forcibly expelled back to Mexico because the territory was acquired illegitimately in almost precisely, exactly the same way you described the United States acquisition of Puerto Rico. If we undo every colonial boundary, then we'll have total chaos in the world. The only basis on which these things can be addressed is the basis of national self-determination. And you know, as I do, that self-determination means the will of the people. So I suggest, rather than trying to convert me to independence for Puerto Rico, you spend your time instead persuading the people of Puerto Rico in favor of independence. And thanks for the email the other day.
But you know one thing? The people of Puerto Rico has gone through colonialism, and the United States denies Puerto Rico the right to study their own history so that they could admire their own heroes. And they denied knowledge about Puerto Rican economy, which the U.S. extracts $35 billion every year from the Puerto Rican economy. It's a good business for the corporations, for the 99%.
I'm sure it is. It's all
the
good
1%.
business for
it's
the
a good business for the
corporations.
1%.
All over the world, it's all good business for the corporations.
So
that's the world we live in.
Why not?
And you may well be right. I've no knowledge of it. You may well be right about the shortcomings of education amongst Puerto Ricans. But here's my best guess, that the people in Puerto Rico know that they have a choice between independence or staying with the United States. And most of them, indeed the vast majority of them, want to stay with the United States. You may not like that. I may not like that. But that's the facts. And the rest, I think, is just excuses. Aoife, give me a 10th call.
Yes, you have Jan from the Bronx.
Jan in the Bronx, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway.
Go ahead, please.
I've been following you. I appreciate your work.
Thank you, my friend.
I wanted to address kind of manipulation going on in this country, even among evangelists. Myself, I am a pastor, but I start to tell you that many believers, many Christians here in this country, it's sad to see how they've been manipulated. Just someone using their vote to get their way. So another point I want to make is I want to disagree with the people who say that President Obama has failed. I will say that he did not fail, but he did not succeed either. Why? Because of manipulations going on, and because those people who were manipulated, they did not want him to succeed from the beginning. That's why he's not succeeding. Speaking about the
well, look, everything depends on what side of the telescope you're looking through. If you're one of the 10% that's unemployed in the United States, President Obama's definitely failed you. If you're one of the 30% or more who are living on or even below the poverty line, which the U.S. Census Bureau described just a few weeks ago, and we discussed it on the show, then President Obama has definitely failed you. If you are looking at it from the point of view of the people of Pakistan being bombed by President Obama, he's definitely failed them. If you're looking at it from the point of view of the people of Afghanistan, whose country continues to be devastated by President Obama, he's definitely failed you. If you're a prisoner in Guantanamo Bay and you've been there perhaps for 10 years, perhaps in solitary confinement, perhaps having been tortured, and you were promised by President Obama that the camp would be closed, and it hasn't been, then he's definitely failed you. If you're a Palestinian, he's definitely failed you. If you're an Arab in a country where the people are trying to get rid of the dictatorship and the United States is backing the dictatorship, he's definitely failed you. So everything depends, Jan, on what side of the telescope you're looking through.
Maybe that's the way. Let's take a look on Guantanamo.
Yeah.
This man comes in and signs. He wanted to close it within 1 year. He had both House and the Senate. Unfortunately, there was no one Senate or representative following his lead. Everyone was against to close Guantanamo.
He had the power to close Guantanamo himself. He could have closed it. He could because Guantanamo is a military facility, and he's the commander-in-chief of the military. So he could have closed Guantanamo Bay, and he doesn't. He didn't. And he's thereby let down not just the prisoners in Guantanamo Bay, but all the people who voted for him, fundraised for him, campaigned for him, worked in the election for him, got the voters out for him, or voted for him on the basis of all the promises that he made, one of which was that.
Mr. Galloway, remember beginning of 2009, after he signed, everyone was talking against that. We are not going to allow these tourists to come in my backyard. Everyone. So how could he close it, and what he could do with those people in Guantanamo? Let them go? Bring them in U.S.?
Why not let them go? They're illegally held. They've not been tried, never mind convicted. Why wouldn't you let them go? In fact, Obama's desperate to let them go, but he can't do so because he can't persuade anyone else to take them. So let them go back to the place where you kidnapped them from.
You see, that is the problem. That's why I'm saying that the problem we have here is a man who comes with so ambitious plan, and he gets no support at all. And
he had the support of nearly 60 million, I think, voters. He was elected in a big, big victory. He had the world as his oyster, and he's blown it all. He is the most disappointing political leader I've ever come across. Maybe I was a fool to have any illusions about him, but I certainly feel disillusioned now. Jan, thanks for the call in any case. Ife, give me an 11th.
Yes, you have Rahman, who's originally from Turkey, but now he's a student here at NYU.
Very nice to hear from you, my friend. Go ahead.
Hi, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I'm sure you are aware of the religious persecution and human rights violation to my brothers, sisters, and Muslim brothers, sisters in China. And yet the government has been successful trying to create a facade of everything is okay. And at this point, the Communist Party or the Chinese government is trying to seek a global recognition as a superpower. But this global recognition as superpower cannot be bought in the market, but it has to be earned. So with
you don't think China is a global superpower? Rahman, do you think it needs a certificate from you or from America or from someone else?
No. It has to be globally recognized.
China is a world superpower. That's a fact. It doesn't need recognition or certification by anybody else. Those days are gone, my friend.
But what do you say to this party that, given things going on in the Middle East and Egypt and Syria, what would you say to the Communist Party that they need to do some changes to the people and give some rights?
Well, actually, China has lifted, you want to talk about rights, China has lifted more people out of poverty than any country in any era in all human history. China's doing really, really well. And the vast majority of people in China, including Muslims in China, are very happy that they're living in the People's Republic of China. They could, if they were Tibetan, ask the Dalai Lama to come back and drift off into the mists of obscurantism, or they could, if they were supporters of Islamist fundamentalism in Xinjiang province, support the line that you've come on the show to support today. But unfortunately for you, the great majority of them don't want to do so. Xinjiang is booming. Now, if you ask me if religious freedom should be protected and indeed cherished in China, I'm with you on that. I'm a religious man myself. But don't ask me to support a kind of greater Turkestan nationalist movement to break up China, because I won't do so. Aoife, give me a 12th call.
Yes, you have Carl from Brooklyn.
Carl in Brooklyn, welcome. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go on. You're on the air.
Yes, I'm calling to talk about this election thing that's going on here, that just went on in New Hampshire.
Yes.
I honestly believe that even though they claim that Ron Paul is a bigot,
we're not playing, Carl. We're just quoting him.
Okay, well, people change over time. I'm a black man.
He's still in favor of abolishing positive action in America. He's in favor of it now. He said so in this campaign.
He's in favor of what?
Abolishing positive discrimination in favor of minorities. He's against it. He's against it in principle.
Yeah, but what I admire about him, he wants to abolish the Federal Reserve.
Yes, but that's all just obscurantism, you see. This is the kind of smoke and mirrors trick that this guy is involved in. I support his isolationism. I support his proposals to withdraw American forces from theaters overseas. But I don't support him destroying the state, destroying government. If I didn't care for the American people, I would support that, because I'm going to benefit from his presidency if he ever got there. But you won't benefit from it. And especially not if you were a black man, Carl, or a poor man. You wouldn't benefit from it at all. Neither would you benefit from his destruction, his abolition of environmental protections. You wouldn't benefit from it at all, but the businesses would benefit from it. Profits would benefit from it.
Is he in favor of that hydrofracking?
I don't know what you mean by that.
The gas, what are they talking about? The fracking, about the gas and all that good stuff that they're trying to implement.
What I'll tell you about is that he wants to eviscerate not just the social safety net that feeds the poor, that educates the poor, that gives health care to the poor, because he believes in untrammeled, unregulated, tooth and claw, free market capitalism. That's what he believes in. Now, if you think you would benefit from that, Carl, if you think you would benefit from that, good luck. But the vast majority of people in America would not benefit from that.
Right. I don't think I would, but Mitt Romney is about the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm not here supporting Mitt Romney. I'm here saying that, first of all, Ron Paul cannot possibly win the Republican nomination. I'm absolutely certain about that. Secondly, the choice will come down to whoever the Republicans choose and President Obama. And believe me, in that choice, I've only got one option.
Yes, I'll vote for
and that is
Obama,
to support
like
Obama as the least worst option.
Right.
But there's no, you can't just, if I wrote 20 years ago that Martin Luther King Day was Hate Whitey Day, I wouldn't think that I could get out of that one by saying it was robo-signed, or by saying that it was 20 years ago and I've changed over time, especially as he hasn't changed over time. As anyone studying his attitude to minorities and programs to benefit them in this campaign, this year, could easily check out. Carl in Brooklyn, it's been a pleasure to disagree with you. Ife, do we have a 13th?
Yes, you have KB from Newark, New Jersey.
KB in Newark, New Jersey, welcome.
Hello, Mr. Galloway. How are you today?
Very well. Nice to hear from you, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Well, one thing that I have been finding disturbing, and I've listened to your show for a very long time. This is my first time calling. A lot of people do indeed seem to voice a certain level of dissent, especially with this government. Now, I don't particularly know how it goes in England. Like I'm still learning about your guys' political process, but I've been studying what we have over here in America for quite a long time, and what it turns out to be is just a popular radio host in the area. He's said it quite well. He was like, left wing, right wing, it's all the same bird. Either way, you're flying the same direction, and you're going to get there at the same time. I unfortunately, begrudgingly.
Well, I just don't think that that's correct. I don't regard the Democrats as left wing, but if the right wing candidate wants to eviscerate, as I keep saying, such minimal social safety net as you have in your country for the poorest and most disadvantaged people, I'm against that. That's a right-wing policy. If the right-wing candidate wants to abolish departments of state, wants to shrink the government, wants to cut taxes, I know who benefits from that. The richest people benefit from that. They keep the money they would otherwise pay in taxes, and they spend that money on looking after themselves. But millions, scores of millions of people in America don't have that ability to do that. They've only got a job, maybe paying minimum wages, maybe paying just a little above minimum wages. Tax cuts and the demolition of the government does nothing for them, believe me.
Oh, definitely. I'm in the same boat with that particular idea about it. I personally am of the opinion that the whole point of government is to take care of all of its citizens, and anything beyond that point is just like.
Well, we all need a government. We all need a government, KB. We need a state. If you want to see what a country looks like that doesn't have a government, that doesn't have a state, look at Somalia. There's no tax in Somalia. There's no positive action programs in Somalia. There's no environmental protection in Somalia. There's no rights enshrined in any constitution in Somalia. It's got the smallest state you could possibly imagine. The idea that for the majority of people, shrinking the state, which is the whole libertarian mantra of Ron Paul and others, the idea that for the majority of people in America there's anything in that for them is one of the most profound misconceptions in modern-day politics. KB, great to talk to you. Ife, give me a 14th, please.
All right, we're running tight, so this person has to be really, really tight. Phil from Hudson Valley.
Phil in Hudson Valley, quickly, please.
It's Bill, and I hope is it Mr. Galloway or Sir Galloway?
It is, and you're on the air.
I just want to give great news at the end of the show. If everybody doesn't know, the barricades have been taken down at Liberty Square. We're back in the park, and we're on the move again.
Fantastic. How glad am I that I took that last call, Ife. That was Phil in the Hudson Valley. The barrier is down. All you people listening, get down to the park. Reinforce the heroes of the Occupy movement. Let's take them on. This has been George Galloway, WBAI, the mother of all talk shows.
London calling, now don't look to us. Phony Beatlemania has bitten the dust. London calling, see we ain't got no swing, except for the rain and the crunch of thing. The ice is coming, the sun's zooming in. Meltdown expected, the wheat is going in. Engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning. I live by the river to the imitation zone.
Hi, I'm Danny Glover. This is Saul Williams. And this is Michael Fried from Spearhead. And this is WBAI, listener-supported, non-commercial radio in New York.
And this is Reverend Jesse Jackson of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Please call and support WBAI, non-commercial peace and justice radio in New York.
People moving out. people moving in white because of the color of the skin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. Yeah, yeah. Let me hear you, let me hear you.
And in tune into your listener-supported commercial-free radio station, WBAI 99.5 FM. It's currently 41 degrees, and today is going to be mostly sunny, a high of 43 degrees. If you missed the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway, you can check us out online at WBAI.org and listen to our archives. I have your motivational quote of the day. And as I told you before, you can follow along with me online at WikiHow, and that's like Wikipedia. But it's WikiHow, and it's how to be successful. And we're doing stay away from distractions today. And this one goes like this. There are so many distractions in this world that you really don't know about. Whenever you are attracted to doing something which is totally not useful or productive, set the least possible time which you can give to that work, the least possible time. And whenever you get carried away with that work, imagine yourself as a loser with shattered dreams and push yourself away from that unproductive work. Push it away. Stay away from distractions. We're going to be successful for 2012. And right now, caller number 10. I told you I love giving away things to y'all. At 212-209-2900, we'll receive a pair of tickets for this Saturday evening, January 14th, at Le Buisson at 11 p.m. It's Beleza 5th anniversary with live band Davey Vieira. Presents hip-hop acts, DJ Greg Haas spinning samba, broken beat, salsa, soulful house, reggae, hip-hop, and more. And special DJ set by DJ Anane Vega. And that's caller number 10 at 212-209-2900. You hear the music underneath me. That's DJ Greg Haas right now that you're hearing. So that's some of the stuff that he'll be doing. And this is for this Saturday at 11 p.m. Beleza 5th anniversary at Le Buisson. And this is your only chance today to get these tickets, because tomorrow, I love giving away things. I love it because I love y'all. I'll have a pair of tickets for you tomorrow to check out Oh You Pretty Things as they present David Bowie and Elvis Presley birthday bash with Eddie Clendening and the Blue Ribbon Boys. But today, call the number 10 at 212-209-2900. Gets those tickets to Beleza for this Saturday. Coming up at 10 a.m. is Damn Good Music with Mike Sargent, right here on your listener-supported radio station, WBAI 99.5 FM.
Mic check.
Mic check.
On Tuesday, January 24th. Occupy Wall Street's Environmental Working Group. Will occupy Ecologic. That's Tuesday, 8 p.m. January 24th. Here on WBAI New York. 99.5 FM. And WBAI.org.
On Sunday, January 15th at 11 p.m., Sugar in My Bowl will present a conversation with two of the curators of the Revisiting Paris Blues exhibit in Jazz at Lincoln Center, Deirdre Harris-Kelly, niece to Romare Bearden, and Robert O'Meally, Columbia University professor and Bearden scholar. That's Sunday, January 15th at 11 p.m., right here on WBAI New York, 99.5 FM, and WBAI.org on the web.